And let's roll. Well, good morning and welcome to our show. Our guest today is a 3 times CrossFit Games athlete. Aside from CrossFit, her fitness career involved competing in triathlons, bodybuilding, and obstacle course races. But most importantly, she wants to be remembered for always smiling, being humble, and being a positive influence on people. I'm pretty sure that you're going to do that all day today. So Bethany Shadbourne, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on here. I'm excited.
It's an honor and our pleasure. But hey, so, before we talk about where you're at right now, and, you just shared with us, a present phase in your life, talk to us about how did you get started with your fitness journey? How did it all begin?
Oh man. All the way back when I was 5, my parents, there's 4 of us growing up. So it's 4 kids and we all start with the letter B. It's Brendan, Brittany, Benjamin, Bethany, and we were crazy children. So my mom was like, all right, let's get some energy out. We're going to put y'all all in swimming and all in soccer. So we started with that. And then from there, my mom decided with me, because I was just all over the place, jumping on the couches and flipping around. She's like, you need to go in gymnastics. So she put me in gymnastics, and she decided after a while, she's like, okay, you have to choose between soccer and gymnastics. And I was like, soccer, I don't like gymnastics. And she's like, well, too bad you're doing gymnastics. And I was like, fine. So I did gymnastics until I was about 12 or 13, competitively, highly, and ended up hurting my back really bad. So I went through like a series of doctors. They really couldn't figure out exactly what was wrong with me, but they're just like, yeah, you can't do this anymore. They also said I wasn't going to be able to run anymore, tumble, but after a year of taking off and just going through a series of different treatments, got into long distance running, and did that all through high school, ran the 1 and 2 mile in track, which is very weird because people look at my body type and they're like, you sure you didn't do the 100 and the 200 meter sprint? And I'm like, nope, I did long distance. And I also did cross country in high school, and then ended up running some half marathons and 10Ks, 5Ks, which led me into doing triathlons for a little bit, just sprint triathlons. So it was like a mile swim, 5K run, and like a 12 to 15 mile bike. But those were a lot of fun. And then that led me into like obstacle course racing, and then finally into bodybuilding and then CrossFit. So I've just had like a series of different things. I always wanted to find something right after gymnastics that kind of just fulfilled that need of competing. So that's why I tried so many different things, and I liked it, but it never was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. And then finally finding CrossFit, which I was totally against for a really long time, because as a bodybuilder, a lot of bodybuilders are like, no, we hate CrossFit. CrossFit's stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was always very against it. But then I finally tried it and I was like, oh, man, I should have started this a lot earlier. So here I am today.
So when you were doing gymnastics back in the day, were you also at a competitive level? Is that what drove the competitive drive at such a young age?
Yes, I started competing when I was 7. And then I don't know who knows much about gymnastics, but it was like compulsory, so level 5 and 6. So I did level 5 when I was 7 years old, and did like the TOPS training, if anybody knows about that. So it's basically just like a national organization where you show like your high level skills and stuff. So yeah, it was always like a big present in my life, all the competing, and I just loved it. I still love it. I hope that I can do it for forever if my body lets me. So I'm hoping I can do it like masters. That'd be awesome.
Well, hey, the beauty of what you do right now is that it involves gymnastics.
Yes, exactly. So I'm glad I get to use those skills.
You definitely watched the movie Stick It then.
Oh yeah, I've seen that so many times. I love that movie. It's a great movie.
It's such a good movie. But
yes.
So gymnastics is what drove your, basically competitive nature. Now, let's go back to when you had your back injury back when you were like 7 years old. Like, I mean, I know that you were really young, but do you recollect like what went on through your head? Like when you're so competitive and you're so passionate about something and you're still very like young,
Yeah.
like how did you get over it, or how did you transition into the next phase?
It was tough. So yeah, I ended up having that back injury when I was 12, and it was just a whirlwind of events because I really wanted to do gymnastics competitively and go into like elite or at least college, and that was just like my whole life. So for that to just be taken away from me like that, it was definitely tough. I went through a hard period. It actually led me into a lot of like eating disorders too. It sucked because I just wanted to be able to control something, and I just felt like that was the only thing at the time that I could control because the doctors were telling me I couldn't work out, I couldn't do X, Y, and Z, couldn't run, couldn't tumble, would never be the same again. And so my life just felt like it was spiraling out of control. And I was like, well, okay, well, like I looked at gymnasts, a lot of gymnasts when they quit gymnastics, and we're not growing any taller. Our growth gets stunted. So we're pretty short people. And so I saw a lot of the ex gymnasts just go, whoop, get really wide. And I was like, okay, well, that's not happening to me. And so I took it to the extreme, and that got me into a lot of trouble with just eating disorders and stuff, and just not eating. And then after the year of not being able to do anything, I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to run. Even though they told me I couldn't run, I'm going to run. And that's why I couldn't sprint. For some reason, that hurt my back. So I never got to do like the 100 or the 200-meter dash. But long distance running was just like, it was okay. So I got into that and just kind of buried my head. And still, it kind of led me down a wrong path because I think as women, especially when we're going into like middle school and high school, like body image is a huge thing. And that definitely was a huge issue in my life. And I just dealt with a lot of issues with that. But finally, I think finding CrossFit really helped me because I was able to use food for fuel instead of just using food to look a certain way. So yeah, the long distance running was fine, but when I got into like bodybuilding, it was just a mess because that causes body disorders even more. Like your body just, you're only getting judged off of how you look all the time. And yeah, it was really bad for a while. But I think CrossFit, I think like a lot of people's story, it saved them in different ways. And that's kind of how it saved me is not going down that eating disorder anymore, like just looking at your body in a certain way.
Man, I love so much of what you're saying, and I want to dive a little bit deeper into that. For
Yeah.
one, for anybody who can relate to this, because I guarantee you that like she's probably speaking to your soul right now. I feel like your story is so similar to mine. Like if you guys heard my story on the webinar this week, it's crazy. It's basically like a replica, but so you were talking about having developed an eating disorder around the time that you were a teenager because you felt a
Yeah.
lot of the things that you cared about and that you were passionate about were, you were being challenged with them in the sense that they were kind of like taken away from you and you really
Yeah.
wanted it so bad. So instead, you went for something else that you could control. So do you mind just actually like taking us through your journey back in the day when you were struggling with your disordered eating patterns? Like
Yeah.
what did it look like? Because this is going to, so many people are going to resonate with this. And you know the reason why I want to shed some light on it is because, and please share it, tell us if you feel that way too. But when people look at you, you're an elite athlete, like they see the tip of the iceberg. They don't see all the work and all of the struggle and all the obstacles that you've had to overcome. And this is exactly what we do in this show. We invite badass athletes like yourself to share their story and to talk about things that are never discussed
Yeah.
in order to inspire people. It's like, look, we're no different from you guys, but this is what we had to do in order to get there.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and like even to this day, like everyone has struggles no matter what. Like everyone's dealing with obstacles. Like, yeah, the issue is like, Instagram only shows like the cool things that you're doing or the fun things and it's perfect, whatever. But man, it's a struggle every day. Just like there's always obstacles to overcome. And like I definitely like even just this month put way too many things on my plate and I was just feeling it. So, like you just have to take care of yourself. And I finally gotten to a point this year where I'm like, you know what? If my body is telling me something, I need to listen to it because usually what happens if I don't is I get sick and injured. So I was finally able to kind of realize it, 2 weeks ago. I was like, I think I need to take a mental health day. And it's supposed to be a day I was supposed to train and work. And I just decided, I was like, it's not worth it. I need to take a day for myself. And sure enough, like, I'm glad I did that because if you don't, you're just going to spiral out of control and things are just going to get worse and worse. And you're just going to be stressed out. So you got to take care of yourself. But yeah, kind of going back, during that period, not only was like everything kind of just stripped away from me, my parents ended up going through a divorce. So I definitely felt like everything was out of control at that point in my life. So I don't know. I just was like, well, I can't control anything. I'm going to control this, which looking back, obviously wasn't the right decision. But it was just the path that I decided to go down, and never was bulimic. Too scared to do that for some reason. But just was like very like would not eat. And I went through like weird food things. I went through like phobias too, as well, not just food, but I wouldn't even, I just was like, I needed to stay clean all the time. Like I didn't like everything. I wouldn't even go to restaurants because I didn't know what they were doing back there with my food. I was like, I don't want anybody touching my food. Like I was just a weird person. And then I went through weird series of foods where I had only broccoli for like a month. I don't know, it was for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It was nuts. I went like fruitarian, and then yeah, I just wouldn't eat. It was bad. I mean, I got down to like I'm a bigger girl, like I'm 145 pounds, like I'm thick, and I'm just not supposed to weigh like 110 pounds. And I got down to like a very Skeletor looking esque body type, and it was bad. But yeah, it was a huge struggle. And because of that, I gave myself a lot of stomach issues too, because I was taking like fat burners and just X-Lax, just trying to like get everything out of my system constantly, that I ruined my stomach lining completely. And up until honestly last year, I was having a ton of stomach issues, like not TMI, but like pooping my pants, I mean, it's embarrassing to say that at 26 years old. Well, I'm 27 now, but like in my 20s having those issues, and it's because I did so many terrible things to my body and so many different pills and just terrible diets that I literally gave myself like IBS basically. And I never went to the doctor for it, but I mean, obviously I could tell that my stomach wasn't right. And so like even to this point, like I can't eat certain things because it hurts my stomach. Like it'll ruin my stomach. And it's been a huge hole that I've had to climb myself out of, like a decade worth of just work putting in myself. So I'm finally like at a really good place with my stomach and food and everything, but it was a huge journey that I had to go through, and it was hard. It sucked. And it's now it's a part of my story. Like I hate saying that, I had such terrible gut issues. I couldn't even, the first couple years doing CrossFit, I was scared to squat, squat heavy because my stomach was that messed up, So there's just like certain things that, I would be pretty open about it, but because I was like, at that point, I was like, you know what? It's going to happen. So whatever, this is what I'm dealing with. So, but like on a broad spectrum, no one really knew what was going on. But anybody that was around me, they knew that I would talk about poop all the time. That's how my family was though too. And all of that stuff. But yeah, it was a huge struggle for a really long time, and it sucked.
For one, thank you so much for sharing that with us and for being completely vulnerable because, you're just, I'm sure that what you're saying right now is inspiring so many people. And by the way, if you can relate to this and if you're appreciating this, then please drop an emoji to to share the love with Bethany, because you know what, this is super courageous of you. But from one person to another who has struggled with disordered eating patterns as well, I can totally relate. And the interesting thing is that for anybody who has ever struggled with a disordered eating pattern, it's like we all manipulated food in a really different, like messed up way.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what, it's interesting because when you were talking about how you developed stomach issues, I was like, shit, I completely forgot that I used to take laxatives too, but I hated that crap. And it's really interesting. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I struggle with eating disorders too, then please drop a comment and tell us how you did. What was your struggle like? But what's interesting with especially females nowadays, I feel like, is that body image issues and our relationship with food is normally skewed because of what's happening right here.
Yeah, for sure.
So take us through your journey with regards to mental health. Like, what did you do that got you into a state of peace, if I may say, where you just accepted that, you know what, this is who I am, and I'm going to work on getting myself better, but I'm not going to like legit hurt myself physically, mentally, and emotionally each and every single day?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of different steps that kind of went into it. I think a big thing for me was hiring like a registered dietitian and really taking action with that, and doing elimination diets, if anybody's really familiar with that. So you basically just take everything out of your diet. So there's no caffeine, no supplements, and just eating like real food for an extended period of time. So it could be 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 6 months. It just depends on how bad your stomach is. The first time I did it, I got so sick because I was on so much caffeine. Because like the first year I went to the CrossFit Games, I was still working full time. So I was working out just to get the training in at 3 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock at night. Like I was just all over the place. So I was just surviving off of caffeine, like 32 ounces of coffee and like 3 scoops of C4, just whatever. So definitely my stomach was even more messed up because of all that stuff. And so my registered dietitian was just like, okay, yeah, you're going to have to take everything out. And I was very resistant at first because I was like, that's how I'm surviving. Like it's a drug. Caffeine's a drug.
Yeah.
And so when I did it, the first night I did it for like 6 weeks, and yeah, I got like almost like the flu. It was so bad. I was so sick. And so I did about 2 or 3 rounds of that, and that made like a huge difference alone. And just being able to take control and of my diet in a different way was very difficult. But just like with anything, your body just it adapts to whatever you're doing. So, at a certain point, I finally started feeling really good. And so like the second or third round that I did the elimination diet, I was like, okay, I had like a way better headspace. So that was just like the beginning of the journey. And then I think definitely just going through CrossFit and actually taking it a little bit more seriously. Because the first year I started, I was just like, whatever, CrossFit, yay, drinking, la la la. And just kind of just taking the steps to like hire a coach and not completely change everything at first, because I feel like if you try to change everything, it's just going to fall back apart, So I just told myself, kind of going into the journey of CrossFit, is there's a lot of things I need to work on, but if I try to change everything at first, then it's not going to work. So I just try to take baby steps every year and just try to get a little bit better and improve, instead of trying to change everything. And I think that was probably the smarter, better decision. And not just like with food, but also with my training. I think there was a point in time where I was just very extreme with my training, and that's how you get burnt out. I did that with triathlons. Like I did 4 triathlons in a month. I'm like, who does that? The stupid stuff like that, because I just felt like I needed to. And that's definitely not the way to go. Balance is everything for sure. And I've learned the hard way. And so if y'all guys don't want to learn the hard way, just balance. Balance is very important. So yeah, that was really, really a good thing for me to be able to kind of see it from a bird's eye perspective. And it's like, okay, yes, I want to be very successful in CrossFit, but if I change X, Y, and Z right now, not gonna be. So let's just start with X, you know? And so, yeah, it's been a journey the last 5 years, just kind of slowly grinding away and changing little things at a time. And I think the biggest thing that's kind of helped me be at peace the last year and a half is just finding a routine in the morning. So I work better in the mornings than I do at night, and that's different per person. But I journal every morning, and I make sure to spend time for myself. So that could be like an hour to, I usually do about 2 hours. So if I have to go train at 8 a.m., I'm going to reset the clock back to like 5:45 and wake up to make sure that I have my 2 hours to myself. So like this morning I got up at like 5 because I knew that I wanted to spend time by myself before being able to exert energy to other people. So I journal in the morning. I do a devotion because I'm religious. I'm a Christian. Um, and then I try to read. Reading is kind of like an added bonus. So if I have time for it, I definitely try to read. But the biggest thing for me is doing a devotion and journaling. And that's just like made a huge difference in my life. And then like if things go wrong, like especially this month where I've had a lot of things just kind of out of my control, where I've been stressed out, I try to do like a grateful journal. So I'll do things like 5 or 3 things that I'm grateful for. And that alone is just super powerful. Just being grateful for things. You don't even realize it. You just be like, because at first you're just going like, whatever. And then you get done with it and you're like, oh yeah, I guess there is a lot of things to be grateful for. There always is. So I think that's really important to do as well.
Dude, you're speaking to my soul, and you just dropped like golden nuggets. Like it's incredible.
It's raining gold.
So yeah, it's raining gold. So I want to repeat a couple of things that were just so freaking powerful, and then I want to dive a little deeper with regards to that. But you said if you try to change everything at once, it's not going to work. 100%. And this is a problem for so many type A people or go-getters, is that because they're so like attached to the result, they want it to happen now. But here's the thing, if you change everything at once, like, dude, listen to Bethany and her teaching. It's not going to work out. And this is exactly how we teach as well. And I agree with you 100%. It's all about progressions.
Yeah.
And I agree with you 100%. And, you're just talking about the concept of creating for yourself structure in order to center yourself and, having a routine. By the way, I'm a morning person as well. So like for me, like morning routine is key. And for those of you guys who are in the inner circle, like you saw the live that we did this morning, we talked exactly about that. It's like crazy how you're saying all these things and we're like, wow, like the timing is just incredible. But, you were also talking about the fact that, you're a Christian. Share with us a little bit how your journey of spirituality has increased your confidence and your self-belief in yourself with regards to whatever quest it is that you're on.
So I grew up as a Christian, and I think like most Christians that grow up like that, you kind of like fall off for a little bit because you grow up and you're just like, well, I'm just doing what my parents tell me to do. You don't really know what you're doing. I definitely got to a point where just like, well, I don't want to do this anymore, And so I definitely went through like a little bit of a rebellious stage, which we all do, and we all have a past. But I think just kind of reeling that back in. I think what really hit me was last year when I went to the games and I got 8th place. I like wasn't happy, and everyone was like, wow, you did so amazing. And I wasn't even proud of myself. I think because I had been injured most of the year and I just felt like I wasn't able to give everything that I could. But eighth place is pretty awesome, and to not be proud of that, it just kind of put things in perspective. And I was like, well, what is it going to take? Like if I get first place, am I not going to be happy? And sure enough, like just thinking in that kind of perspective, I was like, okay, I need to find what truly makes me happy, because it's not going to be the future. It's not going to be the past. It's not going to be my winnings. It's not going to be how much money I make, because like once you get there, if you're not happy, then what's it all for? You know? So I think after that, I kind of sat down with myself and I was like, all right, I need to make some changes. So I ended up getting like a sports psychologist, and that's been like a huge, huge help for me. Just putting things more in perspective. And he talks about having fixed confidence, and fixed confidence comes from just how you are as a person. And I try my best to, like, when I'm at a competition, I love being able to like talk with people and chat with people, and it's not just like head down grind and screw everybody else. Um, and so like I think that's really important to is just like how you are as a person. And that's kind of where you're going to find more of your confidence compared to your last winning, your next winning, how much money you're making, all those other things that are just like whatever. Because like once you get there and you have that stuff, are you going to be happy? Probably not if you're not already happy. So I think that was like a big, like just punch in the face, getting eighth place and just not being happy whatsoever. And then just going down that journey of kind of bringing back Christianity into my life, and I do like a daily devotion that's just like a yearly one, and just diving a little bit deeper into that. And I just found like a lot more confidence in doing that stuff than just anything else that I've done so far in my life. Like everything has just been fleeting moments of quote unquote happiness, that lasts maybe a second or two, but there's no peace or joy, true peace or joy. And I think just this last year and a half, putting in the hard work of like finding the schedule, being in the mornings, doing my devotion, journaling, talking to God. I found a lot more inner peace with that. And it can look different for everybody. It doesn't necessarily have to be Christianity if that's not something that you're into or that you've been pushed away. But you have to find something where you can find like true inner peace and joy. And it's not fixed on certain things, like the amount of money you're making, or like if you're competing, getting first place or whatever. That stuff happens, awesome, but if you're only fixing your joy on that, then you're not going to be happy at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to ask you a question, just out of curiosity. Would you say that based off of where you're at in your journey right now, for you, bliss and fulfillment happens when you are climbing up towards something?
I think it used to be like that, but it's not about that anymore for me, like it yes, like I'm still a very competitive athlete and I want to do the best that I can in CrossFit, and have a very quote unquote successful life, whatever that looks like. But if I'm only just looking at what's on the horizon and only saying that positivity is up, then I don't think that's a great mindset to have, because success comes in so many different ways, right? And there's just so many obstacles that you have to go through, and valleys sometimes that you have to go through to be successful. So if you're only just like looking to go up, then I don't know. I don't think that you're going to find like true happiness out of that, or success or joy. So
Sure. I think that maybe like the Bethany of probably like a year or two ago would have said that.
for
So,
sure. 100%. Yeah, absolutely.
I love it because just through this conversation alone, and this is me getting to know you for the first time, like I can just already tell like how much, personal work you've done on yourself and how much you've evolved and grew as a person. So a huge congrats with regards to
Thank
that.
you.
Um,
Appreciate it.
how did you get introduced to CrossFit?
Through my ex, actually. So he was doing it, and I was just like, well, if you're gonna do it, then I guess I'll just try it out, even though I don't really want to do it. And the first workout we did was Murph,
Wow.
which at the time it was fun because I loved endurance things because I was into half marathons at the time and long distance running. So Murph, has the 1 mile at the beginning and another mile at the end. And then it was like all gymnastic stuff. So, pull-ups and push-ups and air squats. So it was actually a really fun workout. And after that, I was pretty much hooked. But I think if I did it one time with my brother, because he got into it. He's 6 years older than me. He got into it right when CrossFit started, and he was like, well, you'd be really good at this. You should try it. So I did it one time with him, and I guess I did pretty good on the workout. And he's like, you should do this. And I said, no, this is stupid. I don't want to do it. And so now he always talks about how if you would have started 6 years ago when I would have told you, then, you would have been this much farther along. And I was like, I don't know though, because I was in a different headspace then too. So I probably would have burnt myself out, honestly, starting at 16 or 17. So I'm glad that I started when I did, which was like 22, 23, because I definitely was in a better headspace. I mean, getting to a better headspace than when I was at 16. Ugh, it was not good at that age.
Because of your disordered eating patterns, right?
Yeah. All the eating disorders and just going through a rebellious stage and just not happy with myself and all of that. So yeah, I don't think it would have been a good time to start personally. But who knows? I mean, it's all in the past, right? So
show us your puppy real quick.
Oh, yes.
Because we're all about dogs.
She's so mad because I'm getting her up. You say hi?
How much does she weigh? And what's her
like 45 pounds.
Oh, she's like 10 pounds bigger than Boogie. Wow, you're going to be such a good girlfriend for Boogie. I love it. Last night I was crying to Erin because I was like, I miss Boogie. So pathetic. But okay, so
she's an old English bulldog for people that want to know. I saw some people say boxer. She does look like a boxer, but she's just really small for her breed. She's an old English bulldog. So yeah, she's just a baby. And she's 5 years old, but
she's lean and beefy. Most of them are like, pretty husky, but
she's very lean.
I love it. So you started CrossFit around the age of 22. Did you know that you had wanted to make it to the games when you started? I can only assume not based off of what you were saying, but like how did that journey evolve?
Definitely not. Honestly, I didn't even follow CrossFit. Like I didn't watch the CrossFit games until this year. This is the first year I actually watched it, or any like competition like Wadapalooza or the Rogue Invitational, any of them. So at the time when I started, I just knew that you could like compete in it, but I didn't really know much about it. So I definitely didn't know about the CrossFit games or anything. So I was just doing it at first to just have fun. And I was like, CrossFit, yay, drinking, yay. I think everyone kind of starts like that. They just kind of like do CrossFit so they can go drink or eat bad or whatever. And then after the first year, I was like, oh, like this is a lot of fun. I should try some like local competitions. So I did a couple of them and ended up winning. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm okay at this. Maybe I should hire a coach and, try to do this a little bit more competitively at a higher level. And so I ended up going with, if y'all remember Jen Jones from like 2014, back in the day.
Way long. I like adjust.
Yeah. So she ended up moving. She was in Houston, but her and her husband moved to Corpus Christi, and it ended up working with both of them with Black Magic training, and had a pretty successful couple of years. So in 2017, I did Wadapalooza, just the RX division, but it was like the first 3-day competition. I'd ever done. And let me just tell you, that was very rough. I think I wanted to quit CrossFit after that. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. And then of course, like a couple of days later, like, okay, let's do this again. And then that led me into the Open, where when we were still doing like the regionals and stuff, I ended up getting first in the Open in the region that I was supposed to be in, so South Central. And then obviously went to regionals. And at that time I was just like, well, I mean, the goal is to not get last place. Let's go to regionals and don't embarrass yourself completely and don't get last place. And somehow that year there was 0 barbells, which very surprising till this day that there was no barbells at regionals. And ended up getting 4th place. And I was like, oh gosh, okay, well, we're going to the next stage. And I definitely didn't take it as serious as I should have. At that time, I was definitely into partying and definitely drinking a lot during regionals to the games, lots of drinking. And it definitely bit me in the butt when I got to the CrossFit Games, because I realized that the things that you're really good at, girls are 10 times better at. So of course, the things that you're really bad at, whew, it's going to be bad. And that's how it was for me. And then just like doing 4 days of competition was just, it's rough. Like doing 4 days of anything, you know, is pretty terrible. And yeah, by Sunday, I was done. But I could have prevented a lot of that stuff if I would have, you know, maybe taken care of my body a little bit better. But at the same time, that kind of goes back to, okay, I kind of knew I was doing that stuff, but I also knew I wanted to do it long term. So I just wanted to take it step by step. And that wasn't something that I was changing at that time or willing to change. I was kind of focusing more on getting used to training the way that a games athlete's supposed to train, you know? So that was kind of like the first step or mindset that first year. So yeah, it was, it's pretty rough.
I thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. You know, something that I want to share with the audience, and, you know, this relates to whatever journey that anybody is going through. And please tell me if you agree with this. You know, the road to success is incremental. And I think that this is what most people fail to realize. They think that it's from point A to point Z, when it's like, no, you got to go from A to B to C to D. And you know, would you say that your level of commitment to the sport or to your goals in general has increased through your experience while you were immersing yourself in it?
Yeah, I would say that the training aspect has always been there. Like, I love the grind. I love working out. I've always been into that since I was very little. So that really hasn't changed. But I think just my mindset of the holistic approach of what it really takes to be a high level athlete has definitely like increased as the years gone on. And once again, I knew that in my head from like 2017 that I wanted to take this as slowly as possible so I could enjoy the journey as much as it was going to suck or as hard as it was going to be. I knew I wanted to do it that way, just because like in my past, like I was saying, like I just went head deep into everything 100% right away. And it just never worked out for me. So I think like knowing that and going through that, I was like, okay, I got to do this slowly. I have to do it slowly.
Sure. So, you know, as we're talking about commitment, I want to dive a little deeper with regards to the concept of sacrifice. So it seems as if, you know, like the old Bethany, as far as sacrifice, like, you know, if you were to sacrifice one thing, like you will just sacrifice all of it. Like with regards to, you're like, in order to control it, I'm going to eliminate everything. And that obviously didn't work out very well. But, you know, another approach to sacrificing could be, how about we replace something? So I want to talk about like your routines and habits a little bit, you know, from, let's call it like the Bethany 2.0. Because you keep on like just progressing, and it's beautiful to listen and watch. But what would you say as far as your habits go, as you got, more professional and more competitive within the sport, as a pro? What were some of the habits that you started replacing?
Yeah. I think that when I was younger, I just wanted to shut anything and everything out. So I didn't want to have any fun. If I was going to do this, I was going to just do this and not do anything else out. So I cut a lot of relationships out, even family, like it was bad. And just kind of the last couple of years, realizing that there's more to life than just getting first place, or like if I get there, I'm not going to be happy because of what's happening right now. What can I do differently? And I think a big thing for me was like rekindling a lot of relationships and family and friendships. So I started there. I started like helping myself first, because you definitely have to work on yourself and you have to be happy with yourself before you can help other people, right? So starting there and then kind of rekindling relationships and having honestly more of a relaxed approach, which is the opposite of what you think, because you're thinking, okay, if she's a high level athlete, she's not doing anything else, she's not having fun, blah, blah, blah. And that definitely was not it whatsoever. So I think the last couple of years, realizing that you can do it all, but there is like certain times where you have to be a little bit stricter. Like, yes, I still have alcohol, but I'm not going to go on benders right before a CrossFit Games competition. Like you just have to be mindful and smart about what you're doing, or just benders in general. Like you shouldn't be doing that, right? So just having more of a relaxed and holistic approach, and like you got to have friends, and like it takes a village to be able to do anything in life, raising a kid, working, like anything. And I think just realizing that I wasn't really going to have happiness unless I had other people to share it with, was an important thing for me to learn and to experience. So that's been a huge thing for me, is actually rekindling relationships and enjoying family, and not just feeling like it's a burden to like go and hang out with people, or I can't do this because I'm getting ready for a competition, like that stuff doesn't take you very far in life. Or I can't have this because I'm getting ready for a competition, like I can't have chocolate, I can't have bad food, I can't have alcohol because I'm getting ready for something. It's all about balance, and it's so hard to learn, and balance looks differently for everybody. But sometimes you gotta learn the hard way. I definitely did. And I finally feel like I have a little bit more balance. And it's just like it's a never ending process, like you're gonna be learning and doing new things every year, and you just have to learn how to balance everything out. And it just comes with experience, and as you get older, it just happens. Unfortunately, I hate saying that, but it does. Like the older that you get, the more experience and wisdom that you have, and the better life decisions that you can make. So it's kind of where I'm at right now.
I agree with that 100%. And something that we teach in our programs is that it's the concept of harmonizing. Like don't eliminate, like, yes, if you want to be successful, you have to like sacrifice some things to some degree, but the goal is to harmonize, because by the end of the day, whether it's to get fitter, whether it's to lose weight, whether it's to make more money, it's all life. Everything is connected. So like what you have to do is you have to, like understand deeply, like, why are you doing this? How does that tie in, like you said before, to like the big bird view picture? Because if you can't relate it to that, then you're going to quit. And quitting is not an option. So I love that. Something that you shared before we started the recording was that you are going to be moving to Vegas. And now that you're saying it, I'm like, I see boxes in the back. That totally makes sense. You know, you're moving to Vegas because it sounds as if you are moving for the sake of surrounding yourself with like-minded people who are going to push you to become a better version of yourself. So talk to us a little bit about the importance of surrounding yourself with like-minded people who are going through the same journey as you are, and, you know, are, you know, on a high caliber in order to help to, you know, pull you up with them.
Yeah. It sounds very counterproductive going to Las Vegas of all places to go and train. But like, Carrie has been such an amazing person in my life. I think just seeing her the last couple of years at the CrossFit Games, she's been there longer than I have, but she has such a down-to-earth personality. There's no ego there. And I think that's really hard to find sometimes, especially at a high competitive level, is, you know, especially when there's like money involved and everything, people are just kind of at each other's throats. And you definitely see that at the competition too. But Carrie has always been one of those people that has just always been really nice, and she actually cares about you. And so I think just being around that in itself is going to be such a great experience. I don't think that I've had that yet with a bunch of women. I think it's hard to find that with women. I think women are very catty sometimes, and I've definitely been burned a lot through like grade school with women. And so, and being hurt by them, you kind of just like, you shut them out. And I definitely did that for a while, but I realized that I need women. I think women are powerful together. And I'm not like 1000% like, only women in the world, you know, but I think it's important for strong women to rise together. I think that we're more powerful together than we are singles. So I think just being out there is, I mean, even going out there in October, I was with Carrie and Danielle, and it was just cool to see that there was no ego there. Like we were there to kind of lift each other up and build each other up and help each other out. So I think just all of us being very like-minded in the sense of having the same goal of wanting to compete at the CrossFit Games every year and do the best that we can, it's only going to level us up together. But I think also that it takes a mature athlete in person to be like that. And we all have done work on each other, and we're all at different stages. Like I say that Carrie is Auntie Carrie because she's the oldest. She's 30, 31, and just very sweet, down to earth, awesome. And then I'm like right in the middle where I'm going through my journey, and I've been learning a lot and doing a lot of personal growth. And then Danielle's like 24, so she's a little bit younger, and she has so much talent. It's insane. So I think it's going to be really cool to see all of us kind of at different stages come together and just hopefully help each other out and just grow as athletes and as women too. So I'm excited.
Man, I love it. I'm just going to put it out there because for me, public accountability is huge, but I would love to get all the three of you guys on an episode and do a panel and just like
that'd
share
be cool.
experiences. But
yeah,
we can talk about that a little bit afterwards. So let's talk a little bit about the concept of the importance of setting goals in order to actually achieve them. So it sounds to me as if, you know, you are obviously you're going to completely shift your physical environment in the sense that you're going to take yourself out of Austin and insert yourself in Vegas for the sake of the greater good. Now, what are you working towards right now? Like if we're talking about like 1 year vision.
I mean, obviously I want to go back to the CrossFit Games. It's really important to me. The bigger thing for me though is having a healthy body and a healthy mind, because this past year, I think for everybody it was really tough in different ways. But even COVID aside, like I just dealt with injury after injury this year, and it was very frustrating, and I had a lot of negative thoughts. So I think that's important for me to kind of bring it around next year and just have a more positive mindset and just see what I can do with that and go all in too. I think that I've had like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like I've always done other things. I've been not that coaching you can make an income on, but I've always like, well, I'll just coach because just in case, I just don't make it to the CrossFit Games, whatever. So, this year is about going all in completely and not having any more what ifs, because you don't want to have any regrets at the end of the day, right? You want to go all in. And so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, I can't keep doing this to myself and wasting energy towards other, not that coaching is wasting energy, but if I want to be a high level competitive athlete, I got to go all in. So that's what this year is for me. Because I definitely had some thoughts this year. I was like, man, is my body done? Like, I don't want to be done. I'm not done competing, but is my body done? Because it was like heel fracture, Achilles issues, meniscus issues, lower back issues. And so I couldn't run for 6 months. I couldn't squat for 6 months. And I was like, man, I'm just not even ready to compete this year. And I didn't want to, which was a sad thing to say because I loved competing. But because I was so injured and I couldn't do the thing that I really love to do, which was train every day, I just like wasn't ready to compete physically. And it showed this year at the CrossFit Games. Yeah, it was not a good sighting for me, but it's because I had a bad mindset, and having to work on that and go through a lot of obstacles this year. It's been really important for my journey. So that's what this year is about. Is yes, I would love to do better at the CrossFit Games, but it's not about that. It's about having a better mindset all year and having more positive self-talk to myself and not being so negative when things don't go your way. And then staying healthy, like listening to my body. So when my body says, hey, can't do this today, or yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to lift that much, actually listening to it, because we see that as a sign of weakness, but it's not, because if you're not listening, because your body is really smart and your mind's really smart. So when it says like, hey, I need a break, probably should listen to it, which is a very hard thing to do when you're a woman and you're very competitive. Those are two things that set you up for not being successful at that. But the more that we can do that, I think as women, and like realize that, hey, sometimes we need a break or a mental, like that's when I took a mental health day, a couple days or a week ago, because I knew that if I didn't, I was going to get sick or injured, because that's usually what happens. So I think that's important to realize and then actually do it, not just be like, oh yeah, I do notice that, something is hurting or I am exhausted, but actually doing something about it, and taking care of yourself.
Man, this is so powerful. And like, as you were saying it, like I can see the dashboard with like a few people, not all of you guys, but like I saw smiles, like, she was speaking to your soul, you guys. I could completely resonate with this as well. But, like finding the fine line between, am I being a little bitch versus I'm committed and I got goals, is something that's, really powerful, and it takes time and experience to learn. So thank you so much for sharing that, because I mean, like to know that you're such an elite athlete and you're learning these same steps as well, like, it helps, us, the rest of us who are not pros, to feel like, what, like maybe we're not that crazy. Because if you guys are thinking that way for yourself, because I know that I felt that way like hundreds of times, it's like you feel like you're the only one who's going through it, and you're like, I'm crazy. You're like, I'm crazy. But the fact that we're talking about it, it's like, okay, like we can all relate. So this is super powerful. You guys, I want to open the line real quick for 2 questions. If you want to ask Bethany anything, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
Okay. So if you have a question, please go ahead and unmute yourself. We're going to take 2 questions.
I have one. Hello. Hi, Bethany.
Hi.
Hi. I actually typed it in. So this year's been weird. I'm a runner. So everything's been virtual. which is kind of nice. It's peaceful time, but I just recently did a half marathon, and those last 3 miles without a crowd to push through, I never realized how important that was. What do you do to push through athletically when we're operating on our own?
Yeah. I think it's important to just have a different mindset, in the sense of, it's not about like necessarily winning or anything. But it's important to realize what you're doing this for, which is yourself, right? So I think just knowing that you're doing it for yourself, and that comes back to like having that fixed confidence. It's not, your confidence isn't built on, you accomplishing this or doing this or this amount of money or getting first place. It's about doing stuff for yourself. And you just have to kind of reel that in and bring that in. And, being alone, running without a crowd kind of brings it back, right? Like you realize, oh, like I'm not doing this for the crowd. I'm not doing and I think for women too, we like to people please. And so you have to realize that if you're doing something because you want to please others, then probably don't have the right mindset, So you have to realize that this stuff is for yourself. And then that's where you find your fixed confidence. And that's what kind of gets you to keep going in the right direction or push through those hard parts. So hopefully that helps.
I love it. That was such a good question, June Allen.
Yeah, thank you. And congratulations too. Half marathons are tough, especially those last 3 miles. They're really tough.
Who else? Let's take one more question. By the way, Bethany, I gotta tell you that this is by far like one of my all-time favorite conversations.
I feel like we say that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Truth. I wouldn't say it if I don't mean it. Anybody else got a question? Unmute yourself. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I have a question.
Come.
What are your favorite shoes to work out in?
I like the Reebok Nanos. I like the Nano 8s. Those are my favorite.
Okay.
Other than Crocs. Other than Crocs.
Other than Crocs, I was going to say, what are your favorite non-traditional shoes to work out in?
Oh, barefoot, no shoes.
You guys have to follow Bethany on social media. Do you have any Crocs workout videos?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're all. Yeah, I got a whole highlight on just Crocs fit alone. So yeah, it's definitely on there. But yeah, Crocs are the way to go. I try to wear them as long as possible before I actually have to take them off. But I'll look at WODs and be like, can I do this in my Crocs? Yeah, I can do it in my Crocs. I wanted to, at one event in the CrossFit Games, be able to wear my Crocs. And so I got my opportunity this year with the handstand hold. I was like, I'm wearing my Crocs. So yeah. I'm hoping next year I get my chance too to wear my Crocs at the competition. So we'll see what happens.
Didn't you wear your Crocs in one of the events in 2019?
Well, I had some of my Nanos painted like Crocs. So they look like Crocs. It was hilarious, but they're actually Nanos.
One, right?
Yeah, the hot pink ones.
Yep. I remember.
Yeah. Yeah, those were painted on, but they do look like Crocs. It's pretty cool.
Oh my God.
People were confused.
I love it. Hey, today's conversation was so powerful. Thank you so much for taking your time this morning to share with us your journey and where you're coming from and where you're going. Thank you for being courageous and just being completely vulnerable and sharing the truth with us. I feel like so many of you guys probably gained so many insights, and that is truly all that I can ever ask for. So Bethany, thank you so much for your time today. We will definitely connect after this. And for the rest of you guys, thank you so much for taking your time out of your busy Friday morning to jump on the line with us and listen to another powerful conversation. You guys are awesome. Bethany, you're awesome. Best of luck moving and in your future endeavors. And you guys, stay fresh, stay fly, have a beautiful weekend and a very happy Friday. Thank you guys.
Bye. Thank you guys.
Thank you.